Hello, everybody. Hi, can you hear me okay? Yes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Directions Spotlight on Taiwan. I'm Andrea, and I'm the Director of the British Council Teaching Centres here in Taiwan. Welcome to everyone that is joining us online, and also to all of our guests that are joining us here in person at the British office in Taipei. Although we are delivering New Directions online this year, in Taipei, we are very happy to be able to gather in person due to the great job Taiwan has done in limiting the spread of COVID-19. We are joined in our conversation today by Dr. Mon-Chi, who is the Deputy Minister responsible for higher education at the Ministry of Education in Taiwan. Good afternoon, Deputy Minister Liu.
Hi, good afternoon.
We are also joined by Dr. Victoria Clark, who is Manager of the Assessment Solutions Group at the British Council, and who is joining us from Spain. Good morning, it is, I think, to you, Dr. Clark.
It is good morning and good afternoon to you.
Thank you. So in this spotlight, I'll be having a conversation with Deputy Minister Liu and Dr. Clark about the Ministry of Education's evidence-informed approach to policy making in Taiwan. In the last 12 months, the Ministry of Education have delivered 3 pieces of research with the British Council. These were, firstly, a baseline study into the English language proficiency and motivations of students at grade 9. And grade 12 education qualifications as part of universal was English medium instruction in higher education. Dr. Liu and Dr. Clark will be talking with me about the results of this research, with a particular focus on the research into English strategies in higher education, and how these have helped to inform education policy and create a roadmap to improve students' outcomes. So now, without further ado, let me get the conversation going by posting the first question to Deputy Minister Liu. Sorry, I'm going to remove my mouse. All right. So, Deputy Minister Liu, Taiwan has continued to promote the improvement of English proficiency of students in higher education for some time. Could you please share with us what steps have you taken to acquire the relevant evidence to inform policy making in higher education?
Thank you. Yes, Taiwan has continued, to promote the improvement of English proficiency of students, at least in the past 2 decades. And I think you had just mentioned the SPROUT project, and the SPROUT project is the most important initiative in Taiwan's higher education sector, currently. And this project is a 5-year initiative beginning in 2018. The Ministry of Education has been providing considerable funds to our universities to help them to improve teaching, learning, as well as research outcomes. And a very important objective of the SPROUT project is to enhance the level of internationalization of our universities so as to promote international exchanges and collaborations and to improve students' international mobility and competitiveness. And of course, to enhance the level of internationalization of universities, we definitely need to improve students' English proficiency. And many universities consider that improving students' English proficiency was their priority task in the SPROUT project. In fact, the SPROUT project is not the only initiative trying to improve university students' English proficiency in Taiwan. In the past 2 decades, the MOE had rolled out other large-scale initiatives trying to achieve this objective. However, I have to say, although our universities claim, that they make big efforts in these initiatives, the mainstream public opinion, unfortunately, was that our university then didn't make significant progress in terms of English proficiency, especially in speaking and writing. Some observers even argue, that the English proficiency of many university students were in fact getting worse, after they enter university because they lack the motivation to improve English without the pressure of university entrance test. And of course, the MOE wanted to know what happened and how to fix the problem. And in the past decades, we have been trying to gather related evidence so as to determine the causes of the problem and to figure out how to deal with it. We gather evidence mainly from university midterm and final project reports, such as the ratio of students with a certain level of English proficiency qualification, the number of students engaging in English learning activities, and the number of EMI courses. However, I have to say the approach of evidence gathering in the past was not very systematic, and we did not have sufficient information to support evidence-based policy decision-making regarding this issue. And this is why we requested the British Council to conduct research on the SPROUT project in collaboration with the MOE and with a focus on the English language learning and teaching within Taiwan's HEI. The MOE was very satisfied with the result. As you know, the BC delivered a very outstanding report, more than our expectation. The report drew conclusions from a wide range of evidence, which was derived from questionnaires, focus group discussions, classroom observations, informal interviews, and guided interviews. It provided very insightful and practical recommendations. This report had helped the MOE to adjust our implementation of current projects, and we had further utilized it as a guidebook for planning our following initiatives. A very valuable lesson we learned from the BC SPROUT project report is the importance of systematic alignment of assessment with curriculum delivery. However, evidence in this report showed that the alignment was not very strong in our university's English language education. This not only has substantial negative effects on teaching and learning, but also hindered us from gathering more direct and meaningful data to evaluate teaching effectiveness, learning outcomes, and policy results. And with the help of the BC, currently we are working on improving the alignment between assessment, curriculum, and delivery. We know that it's very crucial to develop assessment with good reliability and validity. And it would be much better if the assessment can correspond to some Taiwan version of CFR or CFRT. However, it will require a couple of years or even longer to fully develop the assessment system while constructing CFRT at the same time. Anyway, we are working on it, and we hope we can achieve some good results in the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Leo. Dr. Clark, can I ask you to comment here on what Dr. Leo has said?
Absolutely, thank you, Andrea. I agree that such studies are absolutely essential in education reform initiatives. And I'd like to come back to one of the findings that Deputy Minister Leo mentioned, and that was about the need to improve the alignment between these elements that we find in education systems. These elements you mentioned are the curriculum, the delivery of that curriculum, and the assessment of the outcomes of that curriculum. Why? Because if we don't have alignment, the student outcomes will be affected. Let me give you an example. We know that communication skills, so speaking and writing, are really essential for employability of students leaving the higher education sector. But if these skills, these productive skills, are not assessed, or if the students are not required to take tests in these skills for exit, then we must question to what extent these skills will be focused on in the learning and the teaching. And students themselves in the study expressed a real interest in improving their communication skills. They want practice in speaking and writing within the classroom and obviously outside of the classroom. So I think one of the outcomes from this study will be a shift from the higher education sector to really focus on aligning the elements that we mentioned in the education system, and to provide hopefully more practice for students in the actual productive skills that they want so much of. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Yes, I think that alignment is very important. Deputy Minister Leo, you talked about the SPROUT project in which English language provision in universities was evaluated. Can I ask you now, how do you intend to use this evidence and data to support the improvement of student outcomes in language proficiency in higher education institutions?
Yes, we learned many valuable findings and facts, from the BC SPROUT project report. For example, in this report, a study on student classroom experience showed that many English classes focus on teaching and not on learning. Teachers' talking time was very, very long, and students' talking time was very limited. In many classes, students were not encouraged to be active. Their job was limited to listen, remember, and sometimes to read. In other words, it was found by the BC report, the priority in these classrooms, was on receptive skills of reading and listening, and productive skills of speaking and writing were largely neglected. This negligence of productive skills was further worsened by lacking assessments, focusing on speaking and writing. Some universities had graduation requirements or exist tests regarding English proficiency, but they also focused on receptive skills. And we are very, very concerned with this finding, because Firstly, students' lack of product skills make it very, very difficult to promote EMI courses since students lack competence in engaging in classroom activities and they could not properly demonstrate learning outcomes. Secondly, the MOE emphasized the importance of English because we view it as a global lingua franca. We hope that our students can use English in workplace and in study place. We hope they can use English to bridge the world, to connect with people speaking different languages, and to broaden their experience and opportunities. This requires them to have strong productive skills to be confident communicators. Otherwise, it would be quite pointless for students to spend so many hours in learning a language they just cannot use to communicate with others. And the BC report also highlighted a mismatch between students' motivation for learning English and the instructor's perception of what motivated students. And it was found in this report that students were more motivated to improve their English proficiency because they believe that English would be strongly related with their future work, study, or travel. They were interested in foreign culture, films, books, or music. They wanted to use English for international communication. In other words, our university students' motivation for improving English proficiency was in line with the concept of English as the global lingua franca and consistent with the MOE's policy objective. But on the contrary, it was found in this report many instructors consider their students only interested in getting credits or passing exams. So we saw this mismatch as a strong negative impact on our policy outcome. In our following initiatives, the MOE will require the participating university to properly address this issue, to align delivery with students' true motivation, and to make the English learning experience more relevant and meaningful. And the BC Sport project report contains many other valuable findings, and this report further used these findings to make very clear and realistic recommendations. The MOE had shared the evidence and findings with our universities and hold related conference with stakeholders. The recommendations had supported, both the MOE and the individual university in policy decision making and implementing the policies. And leveraging the lessons learned from the BC report, the MOE was able to better devise an initiative aiming at promoting EMI courses in universities. For example, we had learned that we should require participating universities to make sure students have strong enough English proficiency, especially productive skills, before they encourage or require students to take EMI courses. This means that for universities to successfully roll out EMI courses, they should guarantee a successful provision of quality English language education. And thanks to the BC report, I think both the MOE and our universities now have very clear ideas about where and how to improve the English language education. The MOE is very pleasant to extend our collaboration with the BC on the EMI promotion initiative, and we believe this collaboration will continue to help us to improve our students' learning outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. It's interesting and very good to hear what you say about motivation and production skills. Dr. Clark, could I ask you maybe to come back to a couple of points that Dr. Leo mentioned?
Absolutely. I'm very glad he did mention motivation. It was a very interesting finding from the report. And just to quickly reiterate, the professors believed that students learnt and studied English because they wanted to pass tests and get good grades. That was their main motivation, that the professors thought. However, when we spoke to the students, their main motivation was not around grades and exams. In fact, they hardly mentioned those factors in the questionnaires and our focus groups. What they did mention was they wanted English to improve their professional opportunities, as Dr. Leo mentioned, to travel, to connect with other people, to read books, listen to music, etc. And this needs to be addressed, these motivational factors. I think it's very important about students and their learning within the higher education institutions to align with these motivational factors. And one of the recommendations we made in the report was that students have more practice in using English to communicate. So performing tasks that they would perform in the real world. Students need to write emails, reports, hold informal, formal discussions and conversations, do presentations, etc. So it's important that these opportunities for students exist within the higher education sector. Now, we did see some excellent examples of good practice, of exactly as we mentioned, these opportunities to use English within the higher education institutions. And we believe that one of the outcomes from this report that we will see a lot more provision of such opportunities, but also not to forget the absolute need to support teachers and students in the teaching and learning of these productive skills. This was another recommendation, a very important recommendation as well of the SPROUT project. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Yes, lots to think about there. Thank you. So the Ministry of Education in Taiwan and the British Council have had a good working relationship for a number of years. Deputy Minister Liao, could I ask you, what would you say is the importance of cooperating with the British Council?
Yeah, of course, very important, you know. I think we can say that, you know, the collaboration between the MOE and the BC has reached, you know, unprecedented level in the past 2 years. And the MOE has been benefit, you know, a lot from this collaboration. And thanks to the BC SPROUT project report, as well as the other report called English Impact Taiwan, measuring the English language capability of our students. Our policy, you know, decision-making related to English education has become more evidence-informed and much better advised. Encouraged by this successful experience, the MOE has been seeking further strengthening the cooperation, you know, with the BC. Currently, we are collaborating on a very important initiative called Higher Education Bilingual 2030, aiming at promoting EMI courses in Taiwan's leading universities. The BC has done a fantastic job in assisting us to plan and implement this initiative. And from my point of view, the role of BC in this initiative is crucial, even indispensable. The BC has helped us to identify the major challenges we have to overcome and the potential mistakes we should definitely avoid. The BC has also helped us to set up visible targets and suggested, you know, important principles for planning and implementing the initiative. The MOE and the BC have jointly held conferences to discuss the initiative with participating universities. And I believe that the presence, you know, the presence of BC's experts really boosted our university's confidence in this initiative. And the MOE has been already benefit, you know, a lot from BC's expertise, experience, and the resources. Of course, we want to extend and strengthen our cooperation with the BC in the future. And I think our cooperation in the past 2 years is just the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. And Dr. Clark, would you like to comment on the working relationship?
Absolutely. I do believe, and thank you very much for those kind words, Deputy Minister, I do believe the British Council's work around the world in the higher education sector has been very beneficial in our project work here in Taiwan. As you know, the British Council is engaged and has been engaged in multiple projects around the world in the higher education sector, dealing with the curriculum, the delivery of that curriculum, and of course the assessment of the curriculum, as well as the provision of English as a medium of instruction. And I do believe that has really helped us to offer advice and examples of best practice to Taiwan. But on the other hand, Andrea, I think we've also learned a lot from our projects. We have seen some incredible examples of best practice. We've seen some amazing work in the classroom where students, and a rather large classroom at that, with many students are really actively engaged, both cognitively and academically in their subject. We've seen examples of excellent needs analysis for ESP courses where the curriculum and the assessment were aligned to the needs analysis. And we've seen some wonderful examples of teacher support, student support, and also English clubs, English corners. So we've really learnt ourselves and have best practice examples to offer to the rest of the world. So yes, I believe our work with Taiwan has been mutually very beneficial. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. And yes, lots of great examples, which is testament to the very hard work that teachers and students in Taiwan have been putting in. So Deputy Minister Liu, in previous conversations with you and your colleagues with the British Council, we have always discussed the need to have evidence as a basis for informed policy making. In addition to the projects that we have undertaken already, what other forms of evidence are you currently collecting or plan to collect to help shape your policy and planning decisions?
Yes, the MOE welcomes any form of evidence, either quantitative or qualitative, evidence, as long as the evidence can help us to better plan and implement our policies. However, currently, we are particularly interested in collecting evidence related to the EMI initiative in the HE sector. And we are planning to collect more evidence focusing on students' English speaking and writing capabilities, because the two productive skills are crucial to the EMI initiative. In fact, currently we are developing an English language proficiency assessment focusing on students' speaking and writing capabilities in collaboration with Taiwan's top experts and organizations in language testing. And we intend to employ this assessment in participating universities to see how much progress the students can make in English speaking and writing after they have taken the English language courses in the freshman year. And we hope that the data obtained from this assessment can help us to investigate the preconditions and the learning outcomes of EMI courses. And I think there's will be a lot of evidence worthy to collect regarding the EMI initiative. For example, we want to learn from the best practice in this initiative, which factors contribute to the successful provision of EMI courses. And I think we need to gather evidence to determine the impact of EMI courses on students' content learning, as well as language skill development. We also want to collect data to help us understand the effectiveness of different EMI models. We really have a lot more to do in collecting evidence, and I believe that MOE and the BC will have more cooperation in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. It's very interesting and good to hear what you're saying about the higher education EMI initiative. Dr. Clark, would you like to comment a little further on this?
Absolutely. I think the mention of EMI in conjunction with the previous conversations around English language provision as a subject shows that there are very many different aspects to language provision in the higher education sector. And I think we need to focus on really an overarching locally appropriate national language policy that includes all areas of the education sector, including the higher education sector. And this policy, we believe, needs to be aligned to the comprehensive learning system as defined by Professor Barry O'Sullivan in 2020. This comprehensive learning system is around this alignment between the curriculum, the delivery and the assessment, these interdependent essential elements in a learning education system. And these higher education institutions, whether they provide English as a subject or EMI or ESP, whatever they provide, really need to interpret the policy, that this overarching language policy, and operationalize it in ways that will lead to sustainable and growth in terms of language proficiency of their students. I think higher education institutions may need support in this planning of their policy and implementation of the policy. They need obviously plans that are detailed, feasible, but also very important, these plans need to be measurable so we can see the growth of proficiency, the gains in proficiency that students have at higher education. But I also believe that the measures taken by the ministry will support the higher education institutions to improve their plans and to implement their plans in a way that they will be able to show clear evidence-given growth and gains in student proficiency in the near future. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clark, and thank you very much to Deputy Minister Leo. It's been a fascinating discussion, and I think it's very evident from the conversation that the Ministry of Education really are pioneers in the region. By basing policy on evidence, we are ensuring a clear roadmap to success for students and teachers, and a policy, I think, that is also dynamic rather than set in stone, which is great. I'm sure our audience today have enjoyed your insights. We were going to ask a couple of audience questions, but I think we may have run out of time. Do we have time for a question? Oh, okay. Oh, I've got one question which was submitted. So let me just ask this one. Are we okay for time? Yeah, okay. So maybe Deputy Minister Leo, this question is for you. How do you envisage the changes to the higher education sector in Taiwan over the next 10 years?
Yes, I would say internationalization definitely, and internationalization will significantly change, the HE sector in Taiwan in the next decade. And I have two reasons to believe. The first reason is that many companies in Taiwan are becoming more and more internationalized, and they just need more and more internationalized talents in the next 10 years. And my second reason is our population trend. In fact, we are facing a very, very severe challenge of, aging society right now, and we just need to welcome more and more foreign talents. And I think the HE sector just has to enhance the capability of recruiting more foreign students. If they want to compensate for the huge loss of local students due to decreasing young generation. And of course, our university will have to deal with the challenges, if they have to cope with this change. But anyway, I'm optimistic. I believe our universities have the capability to deal with the challenges and to accomplish this very, very profound change in our HE sector.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. And Dr. Clark, would you like to add anything on the changes to the higher education sector over the next 10 years?
Yes, I think with the steps taken by the ministry, I think we will see a shift from what I would call English usage, so the focus on grammar, vocabulary, reading skills, to English use. So the ability to use English in communicative situations, in the situations we outlined before, that students are motivated, the reasons they're motivated to learn English. And I do hope that in the next 10 years, there will be also a lot of emphasis on teacher support within the higher education sector, not just on English language, but also on methodology, and for those EMI subject teachers as well, not just for our English teachers in the sector. So yes, that would be, I think, so certainly a focus on productive skills and a real shift towards enabling the local teachers to be able to support the students in a much more perhaps confident manner.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. I've just been told that there's not a session after this, so I've got a little bit of time just to squeeze in one last question, which was submitted, and it's related to this one that we were talking about, to the changes over the next 10 years. And it's about, what do you think would be the major challenges along the way? So maybe, Dr. Leo, could I come to you first? What do you think will be the major challenges in the next 10 years?
Yeah, just as we have just mentioned, the internationalization means a very, very profound change to our universities. And of course, we will have to tackle, quite a few big challenges in this process. For example, as we have just mentioned again in this, in this conference, our English language education need to focus more on speaking and writing skills. And our schools need to teach English as a communications tool, more than just a subject. And this may require a reform in the university admission process, in which we should be able to encourage high school students to develop their productive skills. And the universities, I think the university will have to enhance the professionalization of ELT sector and should focus to EAP and the ESP courses. And the university will need to develop and provide good programs for EMI teachers to improve their teaching methodology, as well as English language proficiency. And of course, we can expect resistance to change, because this is inevitable to any profound change. This means we need to continuously have dialogue with different stakeholders. We need to provide concrete results and successful stories to persuade our public. And we need to make necessary adjustments. However, I am still optimistic. I believe that the trend of internationalization of the HE sector in Taiwan is just inevitable. And all our efforts, I believe, will pay off in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Leo. And Dr. Clark, any final points on the challenges?
Well, I certainly agree with Mr. Liu about those challenges. I think the shift towards productive skills, or the balance, shall we say, because we need obviously receptive skills as well as productive skills, but they must be of equal focus. I think that shift will be challenging. Having speaking tests, having writing tests may be new. Productive sort of performance-based tests may be something new and therefore may be challenging. And I also think that trying to bring the stakeholders on board to understand that any educational reform is a long-term initiative. It's a generational initiative. We can't improve within a few years, but we do take steps so that there is incremental improvement, so we can get to that goal of that bilingual agenda in a time frame which is realistic and feasible. So yes, I think there are many challenges, but I agree with Deputy Minister. I think the steps taken already show that we're on a good path in Taiwan. That's for certain.
Great, thank you, Dr. Clark, and thank you, Deputy Minister Leo. I'm sure we could all talk for hours, but I'm afraid that we have run over time a little bit. So I just want to bring things to a close now. And before we say goodbye, I would just like to go back to Deputy Minister Leo to say a few final closing remarks.
Yes, the MOE highly values the professional assistance and consultancy from the British Council, and which really greatly enhance our capability in making evidence-informed policy. We have a very ambitious initiative to rapidly improve the English language proficiency of our university graduates, which will require a profound change in the English language education. We also want to effectively promote EMI courses in our universities because we believe this is an inevitable step if we want to see our universities and our students highly internationalized. From our past experience and the lessons learned from other countries, we know this is not an easy task. And we are looking forward to strengthening our cooperation with the BC on this task. And hopefully, by working together, we will make a successful case. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister Leo. And I do believe that by working together, we will be able to make a very successful case. So thank you very much again for your time today. And also thank you to you, Dr. Clark, for your time and for a very interesting discussion. Thank you too to everyone who has joined us online, and a special thank you to our live audience here in Taipei, who I hope can stay for a little longer, and we will continue the conversation here in person. So thank you once again, everyone, and goodbye from Taiwan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.